The motorcycle I am riding today is Husky 501 2024, and this video is about first impressions of a guy who never owned a performance enduro machine and the reasons why I bought this. So if you're interested in that, stick around. So let's start with the reasons why I bought this bike. And to put that into perspective, let me tell you that I've been riding motorcycles for the last 20 years, but this was mostly road riding, except for the trips that we were taking outside of Europe, be it Georgia, be it Armenia or Kyrgyzstan and Pakistan, all of those places. Those were the learning grounds for me for off-road riding. So I have zero experience in motocross, I have zero experience in heavy enduro or hard enduro, nothing like that. So imagine a guy that's getting close to 50 years old and was mostly adventure riding, let's call it that way. That was adventure riding. So I have tried quite a few bikes along the way, but to be honest, most of them were strictly focused on adventure riding. So imagine F850 GS, prior to that was 800 GS, but then I got myself a CRF 250 Riley, and then I started doing some easy dual sporting, let's call it that way. Then I moved to Husky 701 Enduro, and that was a fantastic bike for me. I had it for 2 years and I loved it, except for road riding on long distances. So imagine me going from Warsaw to Romania on wheels with a friend on a big GS. Then you imagine the situation, then you will know what the problem was, especially on the roads, because on the trails in Romania I was having tons of fun. So I moved to 890 Adventure R about a year ago with the goal of that being my only bike. But that was already like 60 or 70 kilograms more than Husky. And I know my skills are basic. I am able to ride the 890 off-road. This is not a big deal, not an issue. This bike is super capable. But you know what I mean when I say that riding a light bike is much more fun. So I knew I need an adventure bike, and 890 is perfect to do that, but I need also something more powerful than 250 to explore all of those roads that the 890 is too heavy for. All of those new skills that I can gain by riding a light enduro bike. And after a very long research, I decided to go with the 501 from Husqvarna. And if you want something more powerful than CRF 300 here in Europe for dual sporting, you basically have nowhere to go, except for the KTM Husky Gas family that is selling the enduro bikes not as dual sports as you have it in States. We do not have the S version. So this is a 501 that is being sold in Europe as an enduro machine, so performance machine. It comes without any stuff like mirrors with blinkers and so on, but you can get a package. It's free of charge, where the dealer will install the blinkers, they will install the mirrors and so on. But for example, my dealer gave me a pretty big box with additional parts that probably would go into the bike to make it like 100% regulations compliant. So what I mean by that is a cat converter, for example, and an O2 sensor. But he gave it to me in a box because he told me that after installing all of those things, the bike will lose power, it will require a different map because it will overheat. So if I wanted a full power, full capability of this bike, he said he left all of those things in the box, not installed it on the bike. So maybe I will pull over somewhere and show you what I'm talking about. Hold on. Okay. All right. So this is the machine. This is the 2024 FE 501, almost entirely in stock form. So the only things that I already changed are the mirrors. I replaced the goofy square ones with some double take mirrors, much better. And I also added this little shield because I have already managed to burn my trousers by squeezing the bike with my knees, but a bit too low on the pipe. So this is a stock form. Let me quickly go through things that are my first impressions. So first of all, yes, it is a vibing machine, but I knew that from the beginning, so I was prepared for the vibration. And honestly, it is not as disturbing as I thought it would be. And the vibration is only annoying when I am riding on the road, not off-road. So I'm trying to reduce the pavement time as much as possible. But I know there are many solutions. There is this, you can have different grips or some puppy grips that will reduce it here on the handlebar. There is of course the system that reduces the vibration that comes from KTM, and so on and so on. But for the moment, I am surprised. I know the vibrations are here, but this is not as painful as I thought it would be. But of course, this comes from this big thumper. This is the most interesting part about the whole motorcycle, obviously the engine. And I have to tell you, with 110 kilograms, the 64 or 60 something horsepower, this is mind-blowing. And I'm super happy that I got this bike because of that engine and that suspension and everything. So the engine is absolutely fantastic. I am not planning to do any mods to the engine. I don't think it needs any mods. The only mods that I'm thinking about at the moment are tires, because differently than in US, because the folks in US are getting the bike on Conti TKC 80s, and I know those tires. I really like those tires. These are pure enduro tires, actually Michelin Enduro medium. They are great off-road, but on the road, oh my god, this is another factor that brings quite a lot of noise and turbulences. So yeah, the bike in Europe is being sold in a very enduro focused configuration. So yeah, I'm thinking about changing this. And the other thing that I'm considering changing is the front sprocket, because again, it comes from the dealer. I think this is a 12 tooth sprocket. In the box that I received from the dealer, there is also a 14 tooth sprocket, and it would allow me to be a bit more faster on the roads, because at the moment when I'm riding like 60-70 kilometers per hour, I am already finding myself still searching for the 6th gear, but I am already on the 6th gear. So this 12 tooth sprocket, I think it is perfect for, again, probably heavy enduro riding, but not as good for the dual sporting on this motorcycle. Another interesting thing for a guy that never owned an enduro performance machine, and I found out quickly how important that is No ABS. Obviously for enduro bikes you don't need it. It's not even a kind of necessary or welcomed, but when I was coming back from the dealership, I managed to lock the front tire. I almost crashed, almost, because I released the brake immediately when I felt it is slipping, but it was like a wake-up call for me. This is not the way to operate the brake on this bike, as I am operating this on my other bikes with ABS. A fun fact: if you are considering this platform, please remember it doesn't have ABS, and this is by design, and this is absolutely okay. But it might be surprising for somebody like me that never had an enduro machine. There is really one thing that I find annoying, or maybe two. I will get to the second one in a minute. That I find the most annoying and problematic at this stage is how loud this exhaust is. It is probably, as you can see, I don't have the O2 sensor here. I don't have a cat, so probably with all of that crap it will be much more silent. But I quickly learned that riding this bike absolutely requires the earplugs, and this is a concern for me because I live in a building. When I have underground garage, when I'm leaving the underground garage up, it means that I have to open up throttle. It makes a lot of noise for my neighbors and so on and so on. So if you have any ideas about how to keep the power but make it a bit less noisy, that would be highly welcomed in the comments. I saw already the videos about the end cap that is making the sound like directed more towards the ground than back, but it also opens up that hole. This is the end cap that I saw has a much larger hole in the end of the exhaust, so I don't think it will make less noise. It might even be a bit even more noisy, but it is directing the noise down. I don't think that's the solution for me. I want to keep the power, but I would love to make it a bit less noisy, especially when I'm like having those longer stretches of the road and I'm riding on the 6th gear, and on this small sprocket it is already making a lot of kind of RPMs. Maybe the solution for me would be just to test it with the larger sprocket to see if it still makes such a exhaust noise when the RPMs will be lower when riding the roads. I don't know, but if you have any tips, I would be super happy to read those. The second annoying thing that I found is how this tank works. I still can have probably around 2 or 3 liters of gasoline, but I am already running out of it. When riding on roads like this, when you are enduro riding and the bike is jumping up and down, you are able to use the fuel much more efficiently because the pump is somewhere here. So you can imagine that all of this fuel has to jump to the other side, to the fuel tank. It is possible. I saw it when I went for a bit more kind of dynamic off-road riding. So you can use most of that fuel here. It probably also serves to keep any dust that got into the fuel tank down there much lower than the fuel pump. I get that idea. But the range that I got with this sprocket, with this kind of riding on before the light comes up, is around 130 kilometers, and then I have probably another 20 or 30 before there is no more fuel here, but it's still available in this part. So you can shake the bike and then hopefully get to some kind of petrol station. Something very different from my 701 is this headlight. It is finally 2024. It is LED, not this candle that I had on the 701. This light like does the job. It works well. I am just only laughing about those goofy blinkers. I don't know why they add those blinkers. Here in Europe they have those great LED blinkers that were on the 701. I think they just had it somewhere on the stock, and they decided just to push it for those who will ever add the blinkers to the bike. So this is goofy. Same on the rear. There is a great LED stop light and an LED light for the registration plate, but the blinkers, funny. It's not a concern, absolutely, but something that I was surprised with. Now let's take a look at the handlebar. This is also goofy. I don't know, maybe this is the off-road kind of set of switches, but it takes some time to get used to too. When you use the blinkers, it has 3 positions. Again, not a big deal, but very different from what I was using for the last 20 years, so I needed to get used to it. This is goofy. This start-stop switch, it is okay, but sometimes it is difficult for me to just press the red button with my gloves on. So it's tiny, the movement of that button is also not deep, and it is not sticking out too much, so it's not easy to always press it. I find myself using different kind of techniques to make it happen. Funny thing. This is super cool. So this switch, it offers 2 maps. This is just a regular power map, and this is for everyday riding. The second map is much more direct, and the bike becomes super aggressive when selecting the second map. The bike has traction control that I am constantly using at the moment as I am learning to ride this machine, so I always ride now with the traction control on. And it also has a quick shifter up from the second gear. I never thought I needed that or on the enduro machine, but this is until the first time you try it. It is just a fun factor. Accelerating this off-road from the second gear up, pure fun. I also asked the dealer to add an USB port, so I have a way to power up my phone, and that's it. I will not talk about the suspension yet because I just set it for standard. It is a learning phase for me, so it is a fully adjustable front and rear, so that might be another episode. And this might be a topic for another episode as well, as this seat. I know it looks like it's super comfy, but it is not. Obviously this bike is not designed for seating while riding. It has pretty good foot pegs, I have to admit. So standing on the bike is amazing, but sitting, not so great. So this feels like a piece of wood, and after 3 or 4 hours of riding, you wish you had something different. I saw people are using some add-ons. Maybe I will go for that. The concept seats are super expensive for us here in Europe because you have to pay for the shipment and all of the taxes, and it is a crazy ride. Maybe I will find some solutions here locally in Poland, because there are some people that are, modifying the seats. And one last thing about this bike is that, again, differently than in States, it comes without any key. So it has no protection at all from the factory. I have already ordered the key ignition, or maybe not ignition, it's just something that turns off power for the start and off switch. So I will have a key soon. But at the moment, riding this to a grocery store and just leaving it under the grocery store means that anybody can approach the bike, start it, and ride away with it, which is not super comfortable. All right, so these were the reasons why I got this bike. I am ultra happy that I got it. It brings a lot of joy to days like this when you have a lot of sunshine and a few hours to take a ride. I want to thank the dealer in Lublin fantastic crew, great service. I just wish they did two things when they let me out after the first hour service. I had far too low pressure in the tires, and knowing that I will be road riding for about 2 hours and I was just using the B roads, they should probably offer me to change the sprocket on site for the 14 tooth. That would be much better for me. So overall, again, super happy that I got it. I was also considering the gas version of this bike, but the price difference and the difference in the equipment was too low to choose the gas, and I think gas with the same bike, only in red plastics and some differences in the components. If I would ever decide to resell it, that would be a much harder sale than the Husky. I was also considering the same bike in the KTM plastics. Honestly, the only difference that I found is how the rear shock is mounted, and I think for me, linkage for my kind of riding is absolutely okay. I will not be jumping this bike. So, and I like Husky brand. If you would have any questions, please let me know. This is a very beginning, like the first 15 hours. I think I have about 13 hours already on this bike, so very fresh kind of perspective of an owner that, again, never had this kind of machine. Yeah, if you would say that this is an overkill for off-road riding like this, I would probably agree with you. You might be asking why I didn't choose the 350 or 450 KTM or Husky or gas, and I think that that only comes down to the level of road usage as well. So this, to me, seemed a more universal platform for dual sporting than the 350 or 450. The price is basically the same, and here this one is engine-wise is capable of riding on the road a bit better than those other bikes, and gearing and everything, so that's why I decided to go with the 501. But basically, again, there is nothing else that you can choose on the European market from my perspective than those bikes. A few years ago there was the CRF 450L. That was road legal, but it only had like 28 horsepower because all of those emission regulations, so you had to unlock it. It has been available in 2019, I guess, but since then it never returned to official Honda offer here in Europe because of the emission regulations, and I think they decided not to sell the bike here on the market when they basically had to sell it in the same power as the CRF 250 or 300. I'm still learning the gearbox of this motorcycle. The gears are very close, like in terms of ratio. Probably that's another perspective of a guy who's riding on-road bikes. Another fun fact, there is no indicator for neutral. I'm still a bit struggling sometimes to find the neutral, but it's getting better day by day, so it's not an issue. And this engine is an absolute tractor, so whenever I'm on probably any gear except for the first, it just goes. So the quick shifter also works when riding not with the full throttle open, but in the situations like this when you just need to, or just want to upshift. It is super nice, super nice. And the elephant in the room might be the service interval, because according to the manual you should change the oil every 15 hours and do the valve checks every 30 hours. Some time ago it would be an issue for me, honestly. But during a pandemic, I get to know a colleague that opened my thinking about working on motorcycles myself. So thanks to him, changing oil or doing anything technical around the bike is not such a topic anymore. So I have all the tools, I have a place in the garage where I can do it, so not a big deal. And I know that this is a very quick job, so 30 minutes or so and you're done. And one last fun fact, I promise. When I saw a few videos on YouTube claiming that this motorcycle is for so-called old guys, and you know, I'm getting very close to 50s, I said, yeah, that might be a bike for me then. I have already gray hair on my head, but I wonder where this claim comes from, really. It is a performance bike after all, and it requires some stamina and overall self-condition to use it properly. And I think if this is really a bike for the old dudes, then it might be a platform for me also to learn a lot of new stuff. As road riding became like generating less and less endorphins, whereas off-road riding, on the other hand, is a pure endorphin generator. So good stuff. And yeah, this is something that I was missing with my CRF 250, this thing. Yeah. And my goal is to keep this bike in the stock form for now, at least. So I don't want to get into any crazy mods. I don't think I need it at the moment. If I would ever plan to take a longer trip with it, then probably yes, I would start with a seat, something for the luggage, some kind of, you know, giant loop hooks here and there. But for now, when I just use it for this kind of riding, pure dual sport fun, in the stock form is absolutely okay. Alright, so I keep my mouth shut now so you can listen to how the engine works. Okay, thank you for watching. See you next time. If you would have any questions, comments or hints for me, please use the comment section below. Thanks guys, cheers, see you next time.